to one of the first steps to actually obtaining a position, and your first opportunity to really connect with that employer. But we're going to move on, and let's see. My slide did not move when I advanced it for whatever reason. So Adenike, my slide did
So
not
right now
advance.
you're not in presentation mode. Do you want to go into presentation mode and see if that makes a difference?
So I did, and actually presentation mode is viewable on my second monitor. So tell you what I'll do. I will stop sharing and then share screen one. And I think that should do it.
Yep, I see a full screen now.
Okay. So I wanted to just touch base with everyone. Again, welcome to let you know that the YouthWorks portal, which you are used to seeing, that January 1st midnight or January 2nd at 12:01 a.m. will open up on January 25th. There's a lot of new changes that'll go on, and a lot of system upgrades and updates that were made. So as a result, that's why you find the delay. But I will tell you, you won't lose any time. We added on the same number of weeks that you would have ordinarily had to submit your YouthWorks application. And so the application portal will end on March 19th. So you still have the exact same amount of time to get all set up and ready for what's to come. And then for some reason, Adenike, I'm still not able to advance my slide.
Okay, 1 second, I'll pull it up. Could you, we also had a student who wondered if you could turn up your volume. So I will, I'll pull up the slide. And if you want to give any background on the upcoming application, then that should give me enough time to get it up and loaded. 1 second.
Awesome.
Thank
So
you.
overall, the YouthWorks itself will give you an opportunity this year to do everything that you had not done in past years. So in past years, you might remember that you went down to wonderful places like War Memorial or some of our specialty partners like NAFT or Baltimore City Community College to do that wonderful verification session. But this year, it'll all be done virtually. And you will literally be able to do your application and all of your verification documents all at one time. You'll be able to upload all of your documents, and you'll be able to submit and get ready for YouthWorks after one setting. If you don't have everything by chance, that's okay. This year, you'll also be allowed to log back in and then upload and submit those documents. And no more waiting for 2 hours down at War Memorial. It was glad to have you all, but no more waiting and being ready, getting ready to see someone to do a interview. You'll now be able to access all that information online. So hopefully that'll be some good news for many of you, and not to be concerned with that appointment, especially during this time that we're in now with of course, COVID-19. Looks like we are moving. And someone is opening some mail, which is okay. Mail is important. But we can move on to the next slide if you do have control. So I'm just going to share a little bit with you, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Timothy Johnson to continue. But YouthWorks Private Sector really works with young adults ages 16 to 21. That's all of you. And I'm mentioning that or point that out because YouthWorks in general works with young adults ages 14 to 21, but private sector starts at age 21, and it gives you an opportunity to sort of work in positions that are part of your career interests, especially in the programs that you're in at your school with the CTE program. you'll have an opportunity to do just that. If you're in the field of healthcare or nursing, you'll be able to work in that field. If you're in construction, you'll be able to work in that field. If you're in computer IT, you'll be able to work in that field. As a matter of fact, we have employed young adults in over 26 different industry categories in the last 2 years. You can go to the next slide. You might say, okay, that's all good, but why would I do that? Well, there are a number of benefits to being a YouthWorks private sector participant. One is, as I mentioned earlier, and maybe I didn't, you're introduced to a number of workforce skills. For example, we host a job readiness session. There you learn about not just resume preparation, but proper attire to wear on an interview, how to interview, mock interviews. You go over all the aspects to business and interpersonal communications and social networking. So you'll have an opportunity to learn a lot of those things if you attend all of those sessions. But at our Job Readiness Academy, you get that all in one group setting. You often, as I mentioned earlier, you do have a chance to work in the field that you're interested in and of your choice. And that could work two ways. Let's say, for example, you're doing something in construction, but you say, I wonder if I would be good at, working in the field of IT. Then you might decide that you might want to try out the IT field, and you could do that with YouthWorks by, expanding your options. But it's really designed so that you can work in your field of interest. And your employment may be longer. YouthWorks is traditionally that 5 or 6 weeks, but private sector opportunities typically last a little bit longer, as few as 8 weeks, and sometimes as many as 9 months. And then we have some instances where you work year round. So even though if you go to college or whatever the case might be, you come back and you have that same opportunity. You don't have to go job searching again. And then one caveat that I always like to profile is you're often paid more than the minimum wage. So there are a lot of different benefits to working with private sector. And that's what makes me so excited that we're partnering with the Baltimore City Public Schools and the CTE program, because it's all about you. That's why it's called YouthWorks, because we want to make sure that we promote you and get you an opportunity to really expand your horizons. So I'm going to turn over the rest of the presentation to Mr. Timothy Johnson, the job coach at YouthWorks Private Sector, and we can advance to the next slide. And Tim, you're on.
So Rodney, we had one question from the student, which is it paid and how much? So I think you kind of answered that it is a paid opportunity. Can you let students know what the rate is?
So that's a great question. Now, normally I would just bust out there and say that YouthWorks is a minimum wage at least. So $11.75 is the new minimum wage, but there are opportunities that may alter that as we go forward, as I mentioned earlier, to expand that. You would make at least the minimum wage with a private sector position, which again is $11.75 per hour. But again, that could increase depending on the position itself. All right, keep those questions coming.
Sorry, one more question is, will the jobs be virtual or in person?
Combination of both. So one requirement to work in person this year for both youth and employers is, of course, the employer has to provide proper PPE guidelines and equipment, but also to work on site, you have to be at least 18 years of age or older. If not, then you would be asked to take on a virtual position. And that's something that's brought about by the city of Baltimore itself, and not just YouthWorks in general. But it would give it a common option to do either or. But again, in order to work what we call hybrid, where you're working both virtually and on site, you have to be at least 18. And of course, to work totally in person or on site, you have to also be 18 years of age or older.
Good afternoon, folks. How you all doing today?
Mr. Johnson, can you take one more question?
You can.
You want to wait? Okay. So the student that just raised his hand that I cannot find right now, I don't know if you want to come off mute or answer your question. Sorry, ask your question if you want to put your question in the chat. If not, I'm just going to go back over to Mr. Johnson to have him continue. Sorry about that, Mr. Johnson.
No problem. I did see a few questions. There was a reference to Apparently, there's some young people on here that are at 14 to 15 years old, and they were wondering whether they should stay because they think that YouthWorks private sector is for 16 and above. 16 to 21 is for YouthWorks private sector. YouthWorks is 14 to 21. So that 14 and 15-year-olds, you should stay on because what we'll be talking about today is about resumes. So whether you are 14 or 16, you should be creating a resume. So I would suggest that if you are 14 or 15 years old, stay on board. All right. Today we're going to, my name is Tim Johnson. I am a job coach with the Mayor's Office of Employment Development. I have been working with the YouthWorks program since January of 2014. And one of my responsibilities is to do job readiness training courses. Typically, many of the job readiness training courses run from can run as long as anywhere from 3 to 6 hours. Many times we have it on a Saturday afternoon, but of course, with COVID coming on board, things are a little different this year. But we're glad to have you all here, and we look forward to working with you. Mr. Walker also spoke about the registration. Some of you all asked about registration, and like Mr. Walker said, the portal will open on January the 25th. So what I would recommend that you do is to begin gathering those items that you're going to need for registration. Item number one, you will need a current picture ID. Item number two, you will need a birth certificate or a social security card. Now, the picture ID could be a Maryland State ID, a school ID, but you could also use your report card. So get a report card, an ID, or something of that nature. That way, because if you don't already have that information, this is a good time to start on it because, with COVID again, it's hard to get your hands on things like birth certificates, hard to get your hands on things like social security cards. So this is a great time to get started on trying to find that information so that you'll be ready by January 25th. All right, a resume is a first impression. It's the first impression of what you give of the employer. In the old days, when I was seeking a job, when Mr. Walker was looking for jobs, when your counselor, many times we could just walk into a place, put in an application, they ask for an application, they give it to you, fill it out, you hand it back, and that was the first impression that you made of an employer. Nowadays, most employers just request that you send them a resume through online services of some sort to send them a resume. So that's the first chance they get to take a look at who you are. What is a resume? A resume is a summary of education, work experience, credentials, and accomplishments. And we'll show you the order of where these things would go. But it talks about all of those things. It's a concise one page, no more than 2 pages of who you are. The first part of the job application process, that's the first step, because like I said, and many times now you don't even fill out an application until you actually are hired by a job. Some companies, I know even with Baltimore City, they don't really require you to fill out an application until after you have at least sent in a resume and they've called you back for a interview. Then they may want you to do an application. And then it also decides who the manager invites. A lot of times on the resume, they get so many people that want a job. If a company posts a job, let's say they have 3 or 4 openings, they may get a good deal of resumes, a whole lot of resumes. So your resume needs to be able to stand out so they will say, this is one I want to call in for an interview. Next slide, please. Resume uses. Introduce your skills and qualifications, and we'll go over that a little bit more as we get into it. It tells your story. It tells who you are, where you've worked before, where you went to school, what type of courses you've taken in school or high school or college, what type of experiences you've done with regard to work is concerned. It demonstrates your communication skills. You want a resume that speaks well, because it's a written document, and you want to be sure that the everything is right. Your spelling is correct, your grammar is correct, so that they will get a positive picture of you. It's a tool to access multiple employers. It's good because you can, from your computer in your home, you can have a really nice resume, and you can send that resume out to multiple companies. You're not restricted to just walk where you could walk into, but you have access to companies all over the country, all over the world. You may decide that after graduating from high school, you want to live in California. Well, this might be a great opportunity to begin sending some of your resumes out to California, because that is one thing that a resume can do, where your average application, you literally would have to walk into the place. It's a tool, it's initial doorway to an interview. The goal of your job seeking is to get that interview. You want to get your foot in that door so that you can wow them, because we know you're going to wow them. We know who you are. We know you're capable of wowing that employer, but you got to get your foot in the door. And that resume offers that opportunity. Next slide, please. Resume tips. We're going to talk about some tips. Use keywords, words that relate to a particular job requirement. You want to talk about certain things like computer. You have computer skills. You have software skills. You have, if you're interested in a construction job, you want to have that on your resume. You can operate hand tools. You can operate power tools. You want to highlight your skills, abilities, your credentials, anything about you that you think about. If you had a company and you wanted to hire someone, what type of information would you like to see regarding that individual in order to hire them? You also want to keep it simple. You don't want to have a lot of information in there that doesn't pertain to you, or is really specific to a specific thing. You want to make it as simple as possible, but you want to give that individual as much information as possible. And we'll go over it as we do that. As well as the format that you use. You want to use a Word document or a PDF format. In your old school, I know many of you use Google as a form of moving documents around, but not everyone has that Google ability to open up Google documents. Many times we receive emails from and resumes from school young people that are in school, and it's in Google format, and we're not able to open it. So what we say to you is do a Word document or PDF format. Next slide, please.
So, Mr. Johnson, one quick question.
Yes.
If students need more hands-on support with their resume, or they would like somebody to review their resume, does YouthWorks have the capacity to do that? What would be your recommendation?
Yep, I am at this very moment. I am putting my email in the chat box.
So, and I'll put mine in there as well. But typically, we would work with young adults that are participants with the YouthWorks private sector. I'll give you an example. We will be employing anywhere from 700 to 1,400 young adults. So we can't necessarily review resumes for everyone, but we can review resumes for young adults that are part of the YouthWorks private sector. Hope that helps.
And hopefully by the end of this presentation, they'll be able to see where, where even if they don't talk directly to one of us, we would have given them enough information to begin the process of a nice resume for themselves.
Okay, no, that's helpful. And I'll also put my email in there as well. So just so that, and if you reach out to me, I can send you some additional resources, and the work-based learning team should be able to provide some support as well. So between YouthWorks and City Schools Office of College and Career Readiness, we have your back. We're going to make sure that you have your resume.
Excellent, excellent. All right, resume tips. Powerful resume words. These are just some words that you want to possibly include in your resume somewhere so that it sort of draws the attention of the person reading it. Analyze. I analyze things. I plan. That shows, especially the planning shows some leadership. Collaborated. You got together with others and you were able to work as a team. You generated, designed. You were efficient. Someone who worked well and at a speedy pace that you were able to get things done. You enhanced. That means you made things better. You built, and of course you initiated. Initiated is something that you started it, you began it. It was there was an issue associated with some sort of problem, and you came up with a way to solve that issue. You initiated something. That's a good word to use. Next slide, please. Resume content. You want to include some hard and some soft skills. Hard skills, this is an example, computer skills. You have the ability to use a computer. You know how to get things done on a computer. You have a foreign language. You can speak Spanish. You can speak Swahili. You can speak Russian. All of those are good things to make sure that you have in your resume. And I'll show you where those items go. Math skills. You want to talk about the fact that you have math skills and that you have the ability to do that. Programming skills. If you have the ability to program anything with regard, you've taken some A+ certification classes, you've taken some coding classes, things of that nature, you know how to program. That is excellent information. For those of you who are, let's say, interested in hospitality, you have the Safe Service Award. You have the in construction. You may have the ability to use hand tools, power tools, electrical or power tools, and or manual hand tools. So it's a lot of different hard skills, and you can specifically gear it towards what type of job you're interested in. Soft skills, you have the ability to communicate well, whether it's through written communication or spoken communication. You have leadership skills. You don't necessarily just follow along with anyone and everybody that's saying, but you know how to lead also. Many jobs are looking for folks who have leadership skills. Even in your fast food environment, even in your hotel and things like that, where a lot of your high school kids, young people would get, they're looking for someone who could lead. Many times the companies have people who have the base knowledge and could follow and do a base job, but they want to put somebody in a leadership role. And so it's good to be able to point out, if you've ever had an opportunity to lead, to point out that leadership skill. Teamwork. You work well with a team. A good deal of working nowadays is with a team. You may be able to find a job. Let's say, for instance, you might end up being a UPS driver. Now, the UPS driver is out on the road by him or herself, by themselves, so they're not necessarily working with a team at that point. But prior to getting out there, there's a team of folks that they're working with back at the center that helps them to get everything together so that they can be in order and get out there on the field. So they have to be able to work as a team also. And then creativity. There are times when something may go wrong, some issue may come up, that you need to be creative enough to change the direction that you normally would have in a particular job. And now you have to do something a little different, and you don't freak out over it. And, oh my God, this isn't the way to do it. I got to do something different, and then just go crazy and not be able to do it. You have to be able to adjust and be creative. Next slide, please. Now, at this point here, we're going to get a little bit more in depth in the actual resume. If you all have a camera handy, your phone with a camera, I suggest you take a picture of this slide. This slide gives you the website to a resume generator. So when you are through with us, when we're done today, you can actually go to this site and, excuse me, you could actually go to this site and literally generate a resume. It has three different formats of the resume, and you can begin building your resume via this website. And this is the information. So if you do have a way of taking a picture of it or hold on to it, get it, do that, please.
Is it also possible to put the link in the chat? It's just because I'm presenting, I'm not able to copy and paste.
Okay, yeah.
I just did.
You
Okay,
just did it?
awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty. Next slide, please. All righty. And that was the resume generator. This is how you know that you have gotten to the resume generator. That it says make a resume. And so when you put your information in and everything, you get to the resume generator, you will see this as the first page of that. Next slide, please. All righty. And so this is how the resume generator will work. Once you're in and you see that front page, then you'll choose a resume style. There's three different styles of resumes that you can choose from. And so you'll choose one of the three, and you don't have to just stick with that one. You can look at that and then maybe go back a little later and say, oh, let me take a look at the second model and the third model, just to see which one you feel more comfortable with in the process of building a resume. Step two, you're going to enter your information, and we're going to show you an actual resume, how we go through that process and where certain information go, so that you'll be comfortable in knowing that you're building a reliable, or building a resume that the way it should look. You open your resume through Gmail. All right. So once you do build your resume, you'll open it through a Gmail account. So of course, if you don't already have a Gmail account, you want to get a Gmail account before you actually go into the generator, because it actually asks you for your email prior to getting into this generator. And then, of course, if you want to save a copy, customize it, because as you go on, and we're hoping that many of you will sign up for YouthWorks. Of course, all of you sign up for YouthWorks. Those of you who are CTE and 16 and above, hopefully you'll choose to come with YouthWorks Private Sector. And if you come with YouthWorks Private Sector, then we will give you an opportunity to go through our entire job readiness training class. And then at that point, you'll also get an opportunity to, we can help you customize your resume. Okay. Next slide, please. Resume content, and we're about to get the next slide. I believe is going to show you an actual resume, but the information is going to be your contact information. You want to make sure that all your contact information, the way to contact, one of the biggest problems, and we'll go over it once we get into the one of the biggest problems is that many times young people won't put all their information in, and then when a company is trying to contact you, they have difficulty getting a hold of you. And the other thing about it is, not all, you may send in a resume and the company may not contact you or you send it in on Monday and you're expecting the company to call you back on Tuesday or Wednesday. Sometimes it may be 2-3 weeks. Sometimes it may be months before a company. There's a lot of times with government, whether city government, state government, they may take months before they actually get in contact with you. You send your resume away and you forgot all about it. All of a sudden, you get a call from this agency saying they want to interview you. They saw your resume. Objective statement, we'll talk about that a little more. Other information, education, of course, and employment history. We're going to talk about all of that too. Next slide, please. All righty, here we go. Here is a resume. And as you can see, the name of this individual is John Doe. Does anybody know a John Doe? It seems like John Doe happens to be everywhere. Well, John Doe is our participant today. He has stood up and volunteered for us to use his resume. As you can see, this individual has His first name, his last name. If you have a middle name, please put that middle name in there. If this particular person doesn't have a middle name, but if his middle name was Michael, John Michael Doe, then Michael should be in there. And you say, well, why does anyone need my middle name? You want to put all the information that you could possibly get on a resume to catch an employer's eyes. You never know what's going to get that employer excited about bringing you in for an interview. Just the fact that your middle name is in there. Maybe your middle name is the same as his first name. He might have a child that the same, or a niece or nephew. That might just be enough to catch his or her attention to say, hey, I want to bring John Michael Doe in for an interview. And it might just be just that enough. So you never know what it will be. So I suggest that you do put your middle name, as well as any suffix that you may have. If you're a senior, you're a junior, something of that nature, you want to put that in. Your address. As you can see this person, and spell out the word boulevard or street or avenue completely. And this person lives in Baltimore, Maryland, 21223. Now, as far as especially regarding YouthWorks, your resume must should have a Baltimore City address. Baltimore City address. Okay. Your email address, something simple. This person, jdoe at email.com, you want to use your first initial, last name, last name, something basic like that. I know many of you, when you first did your first email, it was probably for social things. You might have, you and your friends exchanging information regarding socially, and you may have some type of fun type email now. Super Bobby, I've seen Gamer, or different emails that you came up with because you were doing this for a fun activity with your friends when you first started. If that's the case, you want to create a professional email. This email would be, in my case, mine is tjohnson at oedworks.com. My first initial, last name at the company, oedworks.com. Yours might be tjohnson at gmail.com. Whatever it fits, you would do something of that nature. Okay. And a phone number. You want a phone number that you answer on a regular basis. One of the problems that we found is that you'll send in your resume with a phone number on it, and that particular phone is on one day and off the next, on one day and off the next. If that is the case with your phone, you want to put a second number. Maybe grandma's landline, maybe your mother's phone number, something. So you would have this number, and then maybe slash a different number that if for some reason, if this number is not operating, then you know that they can get a hold and possibly leave a message on another number. Because that is one of the biggest issues. We've had plenty of our employers say that they are trying to get a hold of a young person and the phone is off or something of that nature. So you want to be sure that you do that with your phone. Okay. All right. The next thing on here is education. You see where this individual has Baltimore High School class of 2022. That's the format if you had a high school, whether you're in high school. If you are in college, you want to put college on top of that. College would come first. So right now, if you were attending BCCC, let's say, you would put Baltimore City Community College, class of 2024, and then your next thing would have been Baltimore's high school class of you hadn't graduated yet. So whatever, if you were in college, but then your high school would have been a class of whatever you graduated. So let's say 2020, and then you scheduled to graduate from college 2022 or whatever. So, but your college or whatever education and any post-secondary education. For those of you who are not sure what post-secondary education is It's anything after high school. So it could be a trade school. It could be maybe you took a computer course at the local library. Maybe you are in 2 year college, 4 year college, whatever. Anything after high school would go before the high school. And then, of course, you have the high school. Okay. Experience. This is also set up the same way. As you can see, this person worked in a soup kitchen volunteer September 2020 to present, which means that they started back in September and they're still working there. Um, and that's how your experience should go too. Your most recent first. So this person's most recent experience, the soup kitchen volunteer, it's September 20th, September 2020 to present. They're still working there. Okay. Now, sometimes I've heard folks say, "Well, suppose I have a second job or what?" You can do the same thing. Your second job would be where you started or what the name of the job, when you started, and present. Because if you had a part-time job, working a second job or something like that, you're welcome to put that information down. The next thing you would have, as you can see, they also then put a information on what they did at the job. Actors Weekend Holiday Volunteer Manager at local soup kitchen, scheduling volunteer time slots, managing intake of donated food. The things that they did, they put in the resume. That way, if I'm getting this resume, I'm getting a clear picture. And that's literally what you're doing with your resume. You're painting a picture in the mind of the hiring manager about you. And so now I'm able to look and say, I can visualize, wow, he did this, or they volunteered, they helped with time slot, or they donated food. I can see you helping to put food on or somebody's car or setting somebody up for a time slot. And that in my mind says, okay, that's the type of work I'm looking for. Then, as you can see, this person, child care provider. They worked as a child care provider June 2017 through June of 2019. And as you can see how it flows, the most recent first, then the one after that or before that. And if they had another job, it would go in there. Okay. So you can put as many jobs as you want. Most of you, of course, either have had one or very few. You 16 to 21 years old, or even some 14, 15-year-olds who may not have ever had a job. But even if you've never had a job, if you've never had a paid job, you see this person's job was volunteer work. So you can put volunteer work as some work that you've done in the past or what you're currently doing. And that is work also. Okay. Skills. Customer, see where we talked about earlier some of the things that you have your ability. This is some of your soft skills. Customer service, hospitality, meaning that you are good working with people, working in the hospitality industry. Your Microsoft Office, you have the ability to work with computer software. If you're trying to apply for a job, let's say it's a construction industry, you might want to put manual, proficient with manual and power tools. I also would put in there any type of certification you've gotten. Also, A+ certification. You've anything that you want to stand out about you. And then finally, down at the bottom here, we have awards and achievements. National Honor Roll. You president of your high school softball. If you have a perfect attendance award, yes, perfect attendance. Many of you have never worked before, but if you have a perfect attendance award for high school, whether it was ninth grade, 10th grade, or throughout the entire high school, you want to make sure that information is there because that is the type of information I want to know about you. I want to know that you're going to come to work. The biggest thing that most of our employers have a issue with is not so much the fact that you don't have much experience. They know that you're 16, 17 years old. They want to know that you are going to come every day, come on time, and do your work. Do what's asked of you. If you can do those three things, come every day, come on time, and do those things. And like even in here, I would put that I'm someone who's reliable. Put the words reliable in there somewhere because that's what I want to know about you, that you are reliable. Okay.
So one quick question, Mr. Johnson, and I love this question, is can babysitting be considered as an experience?
Yes. Yes. And you would put that in as you would say child care provider and put when you did it.
So now if somebody has no volunteer experience or babysitting, they have no experience whatsoever, would it be okay for them just to have their education and skills?
Yes, it is okay to do that, but I would venture to say if you're 14, 15 years old, you've done some work around the house, maybe you've cut some grass, maybe you did ran some errands for somebody, you did some volunteer work maybe in your church or local, that you've done something. You just have to come up with it. And if you have a problem, I put my email in the chat. If you have a problem coming up with something, you just email me what you've done and I can craft it for you so that it looks like work, which it is work, but you want to be able to craft it correctly.
Okay, another one of the questions that I got, and I'm trying to locate it, are what type of companies will students be able to work with? And I think the student was really interested in cosmetology. Yes, cosmetology and hairstyling.
Okay. One of the things, well, as far as I'll talk directly about cosmetology and hairstyling. We at one time used to actively go after that. But what we found was that many of the beauty salons around Baltimore, as well as throughout the country, they pay based on your clientele and things of that nature, not an hourly salary. And we want to make sure that our young person um, during the summer experience get at least a minimum wage hourly salary. And so therefore we don't actively um, go after that many cosmetology type jobs. But if the young person has somewhere that they're interested in, and we would be glad to speak to that person, to that company, to discuss the possibility of paying hourly wages to this individual to work in their hair salon or barbershop.
So as part of the Youth Works application, students would kind of put their areas of interest. Okay.
Uh,
Okay. And so the next question is, would experiences from middle school be acceptable on my resume?
I'm sorry, say that again. What experience in a middle school?
Would experiences from my middle school like, so maybe they did stuff in middle school, but maybe not so much stuff since they've been in high school. Would that
Yes.
count?
Yes, I saw that someone had talked about helping the teacher. I didn't see exactly what it was, but I just saw it said helping the teacher out. And yes, we could work with. I mean, you can craft it, and it's not telling a lie. Some people say, well, what are you lying about? No, if you're helping to clean the classroom for the teacher after school every day, you are physically providing a service. You're doing a job at that time.
So do you have any business partners? Are there any internship opportunities if somebody was interested in like marine life or aquatics?
Aquatics. Mr. Walker, do you know of any?
So we do have a number of employers that seek lifeguards. As a matter of fact, that's one of the most sought after positions that we can name. When I say that, or that we see requested, oftentimes we work with about 4 different companies that utilize the pools in around the area, and they're looking sometimes for 60 to 100 young adults each and every year. And then on another level of that, there are opportunities, and I see someone put in the chat, the aquarium, they also host young adults to work at the aquarium. So on both sides of the spectrum, if you want to be in the water, there are opportunities provided that you can at least swim. And there, if you want to sort of be on the outside, there are opportunities there as well.
Excuse me, Mr. Johnson. There is a young man, Justin Nelson, has been trying to get you guys' attention, trying to ask a question.
All right, go for it, Justin.
Justin, I think you need to turn your mute off, sweetheart. There you go.
I just want to ask what kind of job is open?
Open it now or open during the summer?
Open during the summer.
Okay, how old are you?
19.
19, excellent. All right, you name it, we have opportunities now. Given the fact that majority of the opportunities, even if you're working with an agency like the police department or whatever like that, could be healthcare, could be hospitality, but most of the jobs as it stands right now will be a virtual type thing. Even if you're working, you know, because of the coronavirus, we're still under the virtual. Now, because you're 19, if there may be some jobs now, we're looking at one of the things that typically start even sooner is the relationship that we have with the Baltimore Orioles. Now, we don't know for sure whether or not the Baltimore Orioles will be having individuals work at the park. We don't know yet. But that's a really good. A lot of our young people in the past, when the Orioles were down, you know, would play downtown, we've had multiple young people get jobs down there, and anything from working in the hospitality suites, cleaning, or they can work as security, they can work as ticket takers, work as food vendors. So that's a very good for someone 19 years old. Now, we just, again, don't know whether or not last year they didn't. Last year that we were preparing, or 2020, we were preparing for the Orioles to come on board. We get ready to do all the, the interviews, and they were ready to hire 50, 60, 70 young people like they do every year or more. And of course, baseball was shut down. But we have a variety of different types of opportunities.
So we have a question. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Justin.
No, go ahead.
I think we have some questions regarding the application. So do you want to talk about the deadline, the materials that are going to be needed just one more time, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Thank you.
The application process will begin on January the 25th. Like Mr. Walker said earlier, in the past, it would have started the very first Monday after New Year's, but we had some other things that we're adding to this process. So we postponed it a bit, but it'll still run through March the 19th. So you'll be able to put in there, but because you all are here on the line with us now, we're expecting to see your application January 25th. We don't want to be looking in on March the 1st and 2nd, and you still haven't applied for a youth work job. Not after all that we've done today. So we expect that you will put your application in January 25th. And just to let you know, we have your information. We have your contact information. So we're going to be on you about doing your application. But then also the things that you need to get together, a ID, it could be a picture ID, it could be a current report card from this year, it could be a Maryland State ID. So if you don't have something like that, you need to begin looking for it, and your birth certificate or social security card, preferably social security card. But if you can't find social security card, your birth certificate. So we're bringing that up now because you know how difficult it is in the midst of COVID to get a hold of things. Vital records, I think you actually have to have an appointment to go to Vital Records now to get anything. And so if you need to get a birth certificate, you need to get a social security card or picture ID, you can start now so that, you got a couple of weeks so that through when you get to January the 25th, you have everything that you need. And the way it's going to work this year, like Mr. Walker said, is that typically there used to be two separate steps associated with enrolling with YouthWorks. Step number one was to go online and do the application. Step number two, you used to have to go down to somewhere, recreation center, war memorial, something of that nature, to get your verification or interview done. This year, the application will be online and the verification will be online. So you'll be able to sit in the comfort of your own home, just like you are now, put in your application and submit, upload your birth certificate or social security card or your picture ID, done. You won't have to go down to War Memorial, stand in line from 9 o'clock till 2 in the evening, and then told that you don't have the right documents. Okay, I've seen plenty of y'all stand in that line, so I know you've done it. I've been down there, been the crowd control, so I know you've done it. Yep, won't have to do it this year. You can thank COVID for one thing, that.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm not sure how motor vehicles are, you know, how they doing things now.
Yep.
He doesn't have his picture ID, and he has other, like his social security card
Okay.
and his birth certificate. Will that be enough for right then? I'm not sure when they're doing appointments, or
Is he in school?
he's in school. Mhm.
Okay, if he's in school, he should. A report card is fine.
Okay,
I have a couple
Or
of
progress
them.
report. Progress report or report card is fine.
but the school ID won't help.
No, school ID is fine too.
That's
Full
fine.
ID is acceptable.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So, Mr. Johnson, one of the questions is that would a charm card ID work?
Yes.
Okay. So if there are no more questions, I don't know, Mr. Walker, Mr. Johnson, if you want to talk about what's coming up for 2 Wednesdays from now, that would actually be what, January 27th, when we have our next session. The online application will be ready to go. If you want to talk about what students can expect for this session on the 27th, and then I'll put in the chat the exit tickets so students can give us their feedback on this session, and as well as any support that they might need around their resumes.
Absolutely, and thank you for joining. This, as Sadaniki just mentioned, this will be a series that we will meet with you all on a regular basis. And the next workshop will be on workplace attire, as well as interview attire, and some of the questions that you can expect to receive at an interview. And then we'd also like to provide you with some sample answers that you can expect to be able to give to each and every employer. Because one of the things that we do when we host in person is that we want to always make sure that young adults know how to dress professionally for an interview, but also on the job. Now, if your job is a type of position that you wear a uniform, that would be one thing. Otherwise, you always want to present yourself in a professional manner. And we go over those types of topics specifically, even down to providing pictures as to what would be acceptable versus what would not be acceptable attire for a job interview, and of course, in your daily workplace. So make sure you're here and present. Invite other members of the CTE group, because the next session will be on attire for the workplace and the interview itself, because that's very, very important.
Will students, will you also have a chance to show students the portal, because it would be up and running at that time?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. The application portal, as a matter of fact, and of course it would be up to our host, but we'd even like to give an opportunity during like the second half of the session for you to go online in front of your computers and actually submit your application. Or if you've done it before you come on, which will be even preferable, maybe we can help you with navigating through the documents that you need to get uploaded to have your application completed and moved on. So definitely you'll have an opportunity to look at the YouthWorks portal and submit your applications at that time.
That's awesome. So thank you so much, Mr. Johnson and Mr. Walker. We hope to see everyone during the session on the 27th, but please know that the work-based learning team has many opportunities coming up. I'm about to post them on the screen so you can see them, and I'm going to put some links in the chat. So every other Wednesday until March, YouthWorks will be partnering with us to make sure that you have your career readiness toolkit and you're ready and prepared, and you've completed your application for the YouthWorks summer internship. But we also have internships with other partners. We currently have 7 slots with an organization called Pass It On, and they're looking for students to help them with their companies design different websites. And so if you're interested in that, please email me and I'll send you that flyer. And so for right now, I'm trying to do too much. But this Friday, we are working with NPower on a pilot program for IT, for students who are interested in IT and tech. So if you're interested in that, like I said, I'm going to put that link in the chat. That's going to be this Friday at 2 p.m. It's for seniors in 12th grade only. And you would need to, so you need to be a 12th grade student who's getting ready to graduate or on track to graduate to be able to participate. And like I said, I'll put in the link for that. I heard a lot of students talk about entrepreneurship and getting support with their business. We hear you loud and clear. We're doing a lot of work around that in the Office of College and Career Readiness. On February 12th, we're going to be having a panel of amazing entrepreneurs from Baltimore City kind of talk to you about their path, ways that they can support you in your work and in your business. So I hope that you can join. So I'm gonna drop some links in the chat. The best way to stay on top of all the things that we're doing and all the sessions that we're offering is to sign up for our Google Classroom, because we post all of these events there. We have a monthly newsletter, so please make sure to sign up for the newsletter. And then all of our events, including the one today, we record and we post in our CCR playlist. So please take a look at that. So for our Google Classroom, the link that I provided should not need a code, but if it does, then just email me and I'll find it. But I thought I provided the link that did not need a code. But I'm new to tech. I'm older, so but you guys can help me out. So I'll put my email in the chat again in case anybody has any questions. I want to thank all of our teachers. I want to thank all of our students. I want to thank Mr. Johnson and Mr. Walker for making this session so amazing. And I look forward to seeing you guys at some of these other opportunities. And I look forward to seeing you guys on January 27th, where we meet back here for interview attire and work attire and looking at the YouthWorks summer internship portal and answering any questions around that as well. So if you see any of your classmates that are not here today, please encourage them to join us on the 27th. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys have a great day.
Yes, young people, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, have a good one.
Okay. You too.